Hello and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast in this, the penultimate installment of Series 2 of the show. As always, I am Rick, joined as ever by Paula.
Ooh.
And Alex.
Hello.
Both of whom have left the bulk of the work to me this week because they've not finished anything. So we're going to talk about the 4 games that I've played. Fortunately, I've had a bumper week. We're going to talk about the one retirement, which isn't me. We're going to talk about what everyone's playing at the minute. And then we're going to touch on early access's impact on the final game, how that process changes the way the product comes to fruition, what impacts that has, both good and bad. And we're going to finish up with the second to last installment of the game we've all grown to know and love as How Long to Beat The Game. And speaking of the games, my first completion of 4 was Jack Bros for the Virtual Boy. I didn't like this one. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. It's very, very cookie cutter. It's very, very short. And I think what frustrated me the most is the emphasis on time. Now, it's worth saying in hindsight, I watched some YouTube videos about the game, having beaten it. And it looks like Jack Frost, which is the character I picked, is widely considered to be the least good character. So some of that is on that. But I'm not inclined to play the game again with a different character. The focus on time, rather than freeing it up and simplifying things, although I suppose it does do that a little bit, it makes the game a much more arcadey experience and a quest for perfection almost. And I didn't really enjoy that. And I can't imagine I would have enjoyed that on original hardware either. Now, the art is pretty good. The story's fine, I guess, to the extent that there is one, and there is a little bit of a story. And the gameplay is not bad. It's a twin-stick shooter. And when I say twin-stick, I mean twin D-pad, because that's what the Virtual Boy had. I should also say I only found out I had a special move at the final boss, which was fun. But again, partially that's on me. I'm playing a ROM file. I never read the instructions. It's one of those. This is not really worth seeking out. I think it is worth watching a YouTube retrospective on. There are some sort of 20, 30-minute videos that give you enough of sort of the historical context of this game. I don't regret playing it. It's a nice little corner of Shin Megami Tensei lore. Apart from anything else, it's the first Shin Megami Tensei game that ever got localized. So that's a random bit of trivia. But beyond the novelty of it, I didn't really like it. I don't think I'll ever go back to it. I can't really encourage people to seek this out unless, like me, they've got a weird interest in just touching on all of the Virtual Boy's library. The second game I played was much, much better. I would actually put it among the best games I've played this year so far. And that is Revita. This is a 2D roguelike with some sort of mental healthy themes. The gameplay is the core of all of it, though, and the gameplay is fantastic. So it's very, very streamlined. It's very, very focused on what it's doing. So you have a move, an aim, a jump, a dash, and an attack. In theory, I think you can get a second weapon, but I only ever played with one weapon. So attack is on your right trigger, dash is on your left trigger, jump is on your left bumper, and then it's the 2 sticks. With a couple of exceptions that aren't particularly relevant to us today. The pixel art's great. The gameplay is very well pitched. You do not have any kind of currency. The game revolves around health. So both unspent hearts that you have and empty slots. So if you have 3 slots out of 6, so you have 3 hearts, 6 total hearts available, you can, depending on which shop and which person you're talking to, exchange some of your life, so of the 3, or capacity in your health pool, so half or 1 of your empty health slots. And you can exchange those for upgrades, for additional bonuses and boons and increases, for shields, which will give you a little bit of extra single time health, or for straight health replenishment. Again, makes the game further streamlined because you're not thinking about how many coins you have, energy for different attacks. Everything's just on cooldown. For the main attack, your only focus is on enemies and your own health. I think it's a really, really cool system. It's definitely been tried in other forms before, I'd expect, but this is a near perfect implementation of that system. There are some drawbacks to the game's progression curve, and I think we'll come on to those in the topic because it's part of what spurred me to suggest this to the guys and for it to be what we're talking about. But I considered it complete by finishing a full regular run. That took me 6 or 7 hours, in part because I had a really, really fortuitous run with a sniper build. Once you get a certain point into the game, you can choose different weapons to start with. So rather than the basic pistol, there's an SMG I like, there's a shotgun I like, there is a sniper. There are a few other guns that come through later on in the game. The sniper I found to be the best one from my playthrough, and I got a boon that rather than holding the fire button, just firing after shot after shot after shot, it would let me charge up an attack and overcharge it for massive damage, which with a sniper is a recipe for insta kills and ultimately great success. I really, really enjoyed this game. Once I'd picked it up, it's basically all I played until I beat it. I think I will be coming back to it in the future to sort of make more progress to the true end, and just experience that gameplay some more. It's on PC as well. I think it's a fantastic fit for the Switch. A successful run won't take you more than 30 minutes on the regular mode. 15, 20 minutes is an average run. And it's perfect for that. A lot of my gaming was on the commute to and from work. Excellent game. Cannot recommend it highly enough. Another excellent game, and one that I think was a pleasant surprise for me, is To Hell with the Ugly. So I'd started this last time. I'd played maybe 10 minutes of the game, and I went on to finish it over the last week. That wasn't a mean feat. This game clocks in at just over 2 hours, but it was an enjoyable one. So the conceit of the game is that you are a beautiful man in an ugly world, who is kidnapped, beaten, attempted to be sort of enticed by illicit acts, and you make your escape. And with the help of a friend who happens to be a journalist, you are trying to find out why you were kidnapped and what's going on in the city. This plays out in a standard sort of adventure game style, with a very non-standard Art Deco sort of block color aesthetic, and the visuals and the music are beautiful. It's sort of early last century jazz sort of focus. Really fits the game, and the adventure segments are interspersed with one-off RPG battles. They have a timing system. It's a little bit Super Mario RPG in that sense, and they are not super in depth, but they have enough to sustain their presence for what little screen time they have, and they serve to punctuate the adventure game really well. The game moves at a fair clip. You never feel like you really stop for too long in any one place or story beat, and I think that serves to the game's benefit. There's a real sense of momentum about both the story and the game, and it's a story that I can't think has any parallels to what I've experienced either in games or in other mediums, and it has really made me want to seek out the novel upon which it is based, because it's a fascinating story that I don't want to spoil here. I wouldn't necessarily say it's for everyone. I think you have to have a little bit of patience with adventure game logic and mechanics, because there are a few moments where, while I didn't necessarily get stuck myself, I think they might be stumbling blocks for people who haven't played adventure games before. But it is a really, really good time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's on Switch. I played it on PC. I think PC is absolutely the better place to play this game. I also have to say, I think it's probably a tad overpriced. So I got it on sale in the most recent sale for something like £14, down from 18. I think really just over half that is a right number to be going for. Not because the game is bad, but I don't feel the game does enough over a 2-hour runtime to justify quite that cost. That said, I really, really enjoyed it. And if the numbers make sense for you listening at home, I think it's well worth a look. And then finally, one that you beat a few weeks back, Alex, I finally beat Melatonin. I had actually, just before we started recording this, I had a 2-hour drive back from visiting my parents, and I played this in the passenger seat of the car because I wasn't driving, on my way back with some headphones in. And I just decided I didn't want to perfect every run, because what had slowed the game down for me is trying to get perfect on everything. And I think because it puts the progress bar front and center on the in-game HUD, you are more encouraged to try and get a perfect score. And I felt that hampered my enjoyment of the game somewhat. So I settled for 3 stars on 4 or 5 levels, just to roll credits and see the ending of this game. It is a fine attempt to create something that mimics the gameplay of Rhythm Heaven or Paradise or Tengoku, depending on where you played those games, with a very, very different aesthetic. The music's phenomenal, and there's a playlist with the majority of the songs on Spotify, if anyone wants to check out the music itself. And the aesthetic's wonderful, albeit the more you look, there are, little bits where they've shortcutted on some of the animation, I feel. The game is fine. It does what it sets out to do. Maybe a little bit on the slim side. 16 sort of unique game mechanics, 20-ish different courses, because some of those are mashups of previous levels. And if you're like Alex and you're just playing the whole thing through, if you clear a song, that's fine and you can move on. This game will take you no more than 2 hours. In the event, I replayed quite a few of those levels to get better scores. It took me somewhere between 4 and 5. I do think it's good. I think it's something for people who've played all the Rhythm Heaven games and want to scratch that itch again, or for people who like that music and want an excuse to experience that in a more kinetic form. I don't think it's great, and I think this is an interesting example of the Steam Next Fest demos giving a really, really overly positive impression of the game, sort of in the style of shareware in the 90s, by front-loading their best bits without time for the repetition of those bits to become stale, which didn't affect me as much with Melatonin, because I played the first half, parked it, and then came back maybe a month later and played the second half. But I think it is a fair criticism of the game. Do you think that's fair, Alex, in terms of Melatonin?
Not really. I mean, a little bit, but I think I'm a lot. I don't know. I don't think the game really tricks you in that demo. It shows you what the game is like, and the game continues to be like that, and it extends and gets better. So I don't know. I personally really enjoyed it, and maybe it's because I'm someone who actually thinks the Rhythm Tengoku games are a little overrated, because I think that they're I actually don't think they're often. So maybe that's where it is. If you think Rhythm Tengoku is really, really great, then I think this might not be an experience that you like as much. I thought this was more enjoyable because I found that it actually did a better job at teaching you how to play the game, and teaching you how to play the rhythm games, and then unleashing you kind of on it, and then giving you more challenges if you wanted to go further or not. It might be a case of the way we approached these games being different, because so here's what I say. I think what you're describing is fair based on how you tackled the game, right? Where you were trying to kind of perfect things and getting more bogged down into it, which I think I recognize that's something you can definitely it's not something that the game's telling you necessarily not to do. Though the vibes of the game definitely aren't that per se, right? But it is something you can do with the game. So for me personally, when I came into it, I was more just I'm just here to kind of vibe with the great music and the cool art, and then just kind of go for it. And I have to say, I think I think a discussion of this game without discussing the artwork is a little misses a big part of it, because I really do think that artwork genuinely boosts the game up quite a bit, because it's very aesthetically pleasing, and it fits so perfectly with the whole package. It just very cohesive for me, at least. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is one where maybe I'm just a little warmer on it than you are.
Hmm.
which is fair because again, yeah, I don't know. It clicked for me. And like sometimes rhythm games don't, but this is one of those rhythm games that really clicked for me. And Rhythm Tengoku is a rhythm game that doesn't click for me. Like I actually found that at times there were timings in Rhythm Tengoku that really just like I could not understand what they wanted from me, which I found really, really frustrating. Whereas this game, they always make it very, very, very clear what they want from you before they take all the training wheels off and are like, go to town. Which is something that I think a lot of rhythm mini games like this don't really do enough of at times. Sometimes they just sort of gauntlet you and like they're just kind of like figure it out, dummy, and you're like, oh, or they do like, you know what I mean? Like they'll do like a 1 bar, this is how it works practice before just kind of launching you in. Which I think some people would probably love that, but for me, I was like, no, I'd like a little bit more, just a little more guidance before I start. So yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think I'd agree with the praise on the the praise on the tutorializing. That's totally fair, and it probably is a different strokes for different folks thing because I like Rhythm Tengoku way more. I like the feel of it, the sort of quirky charm that it has, and I like that it throws a lot of little extra bells and whistles in around all the little mini games and the way the menus are laid out. And that's not to say that Melatonin doesn't do those well. It does them well in a different way. For me, I think where I'd push back a little bit is I do think there's a little bit of incongruity because the visuals and the mood and the music, very chill, absolutely. And the visuals are great. There's a discussion to be had for whether rhythm games benefit from distracting visuals. I'm not going to get into the weeds of that because I don't know where I necessarily fall on that. But what I will say is the game is quite keen to let you know how well or badly you're doing score-wise. And I think that's a little bit of a mismatch to the lo-fi vibe and aesthetic. I mean, the game has a mode where you can literally switch a toggle, and the moment you don't hit something perfect, it will restart you again, which I do think is a good thing. But I don't think it necessarily matches up with the idea of playing it in a more
I think
sedate,
I'm going to push back on that
way.
because I think the point is that you are meant to enter into a Zen state. So you got to know how you're doing because then as you master it, then you enter the Zen state, right? Like that's like part of what they're hitting at. It's like a mastery over because like you could be relaxed in the sense of like, relaxed like a game where it's just like it doesn't matter when you hit it, it's all chill. But is that actually chill, right? Or is that just boring versus a game that's sort of trying to teach you how to master its rhythms so that you enter into this chill Zen state as you're playing?
Flow, you mean?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Flow Zen state sort of thing. Like kind of like when you're playing Tetris, right? Where it's like, yeah, you can still have elements that are challenging, but that doesn't mean that they're not relaxing, right? Like I think like because lo-fi doesn't necessarily mean, and like in this particular instance, like with the aesthetic they're building, I don't think it means simple or like easy. I think it is a different sort of necessarily feeling to that, right? And like for me personally, I thought the sort of lo-fi sort of aesthetic created more of like a relaxed feeling around a stressful type of endeavor. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh yeah, the game is challenging, but these other elements are chill. So I'm not like it's not like Megalovania or something. You know what I mean? Like it's not like Fighting Sans or something where it's all just like holy shit the whole time. Which is can be a really fun experience, but I think it's like sort of like it's a little bit like two sides of the same coin for me at least. Though I do see what you're saying, like having that progress, but yeah, I think it might be a different strokes for different folks thing because I like everything you're describing is actually what I liked. Where I was like, I actually liked having an indicator of how I'm doing because I'm like, okay, I'm actually doing well here, and noticing when I'm screwing up, and then I'm like, oh shit, okay, so I'm off rhythm now. I'm back on rhythm. So yeah, I don't know. Teach his own, I guess.
I mean more the little bar on the side.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about
how
too.
You're going up minutes. I actually quite like the perfect early late as they were integrated into the visuals. Yeah, might be a preference thing. The only time I really felt flow was in the game's final track.
Yeah.
Where everything you've done in the rest of the game culminates together. And I did think that was a quite nice end. And that whole thing probably elevated it slightly more than I felt throughout the game.
I agree.
And again, by no means a bad game. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fine TM. and it will depend on your preference as to what that means
Yeah,
for,
and
for
for me,
you
it's probably
in
a
particular.
good TM.
Hmm.
It's like a little bit higher. I definitely see there are flaws with it, but yeah.
And
Nice.
in terms of what was retired TM, why don't you tell us about Tales of Iron, Alex?
Yeah, nothing super interesting for this one. I just thought I'd be realistic with myself because I was staring at it when we were playing, and I went, "I'm not playing that right now." um, and it's this is a game that I can see myself returning to because there's nothing wrong with it. Like, there's no reason that I've retired this that is the game's fault. It's just like a cozy, like Humble had a cozy games fucking bundle that came out, and Garden Story was in it, and there's a bunch of other games. Oh, I did fucking beat a game. Hold on, I beat a
Cool.
game.
Oh, let's back up a few steps.
Back up a couple steps because I beat a game that we've all played before. I beat a short hike.
Oh,
Yeah, because so again, there was a little like Humble like cozy games bundle. And I saw it and I was like, oh, I played a couple of these games. It was like, but I actually don't own a short hike on Steam because I own it on like like it was like in that big bundle, so I had it just as like a executable. But I didn't have it in Steam, so I was like, oh shit, this could be good. And I booted that thing up, and first off, I forgot how short it is. Like,
yeah.
goddamn, it was like an hour and a half. I was like, oh right, fuck, this is really short. But second, this game is perfect. Like, this game is, as far as I'm concerned, a perfect game. Because like everything is executed flawlessly. God damn it, the music is great. The aesthetics are beautiful. It is so childlike joyful, Like, you're just like, going around collecting things, going and exploring. I might even boot it back up later and just go and like find some of the extra stuff all around the island. Because I forgot how fast I got up to the top, and I was like, oh shit, I'm there. And that ending is so touching. It's so beautifully simplistic and touching. And it works fantastic on Steam Deck, by the way. It's fucking awesome on there. I'm sure it's awesome as well because I played it on PC last time, but I'm sure on Switch it's great too. I was like, I was a little high and started playing it, and god damn, is it a good game to play while you're a little high. Like, honestly, perfect game because it is so fucking chill, and like it's so forgiving in its platforming, though not challenging, right? Like, it's like there is some level of like, yeah, you got to find the stuff and do the things, but I have a feeling I'm gonna come back to this game every few years for the rest of my life because it's so short and it's so lovely that like it feels like a game. Like, I can't wait till I have kids one day to just be like, here you go, and like sit them down with this thing, and like I'm sure they'll have a fucking blast because it's just such a simple, fun little experience. Yeah, I really hope. I don't know. Did the person who made this make anything else recently?
I think the last thing they did is port this game to PS4.
Is that the last thing? Okay,
Because
I know they're working on their own.
I bought it and I sat my girlfriend down in front of us. I was like, play it, and she had a great experience. I think it's a great game just to give to someone and say you're welcome in advance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, whatever they make next, God, I want to fucking play whatever they do next. It's just like this game has a 10 out of 10 on Steam, right? And it's like, I agree.
Yeah, it's probably worth shouting this bundle out actually, because even when this goes out, there'll be another week for it left to run. And there's a 10 game version, but what I really want to throw people's way is the 4 item minimum. It's showing up as £3.92, and that is with 2 games and 2 vouchers. The games are A Short Hike and Assemble with Care, which I think is fucking phenomenal. It's not far off A Short Hike's level. Paula, I know you've played that game, and I think you had a really great time with it as well.
Yeah, I played that on Steam Next Fest, and I played the demo. I love it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that one, actually.
I actually have to play the full release sometime soon.
It's great. I think it started as an Apple Arcade game, but it plays perfectly well on PC. It's another short one. You could play both of them in an afternoon, maybe over 5 hours.
Oh yeah.
And then it has coupons for a game called Hello Good Boy, which I don't know anything about, but it also has a coupon for Haven Park, which is
also fun.
It's a great. It's not on that same level, but it's a similar kind of vibe, and it does some unique things of its own.
You know what it is?
It's well worth giving a try.
A Short Hike is a 10 out of 10 game. Haven Park is like an 8 out of 10. It's like of a Short Hike style games. Like, because like Haven Park, I really enjoyed, but it is. I think it has interesting things, like you said. I I would say pretty clearly inferior to a short hike, but still scratches that itch, that not many
Haven Park
games.
is we have a short hike at home.
Kind of, yeah, but a little better, like a little better than that.
It's not bad, but that's the vibe. Anyway.
Yeah. It's like you want to go watch, like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings, and instead you get like Neverending Story, and you're like, this is fine. It's just not what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like it's still got that vibe, just not. Or maybe Willow. That's probably a better example. Anyway, Willow's pretty good. Though it's hilarious. Anyway, yeah, I beat a short hike. Clearly, I totally left my brain because I just hadn't even thought about that because I just played it randomly. But yes, I do recommend people get that bundle because I am in such a mood for cozy games these days, and
yeah, man,
there's some real good ones in there. Okay, so let's return now to my retirement of Tales of Iron. Like I said, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like it's good. The combat's cool. It's 2D Dark Souls-ish kind of game. I just don't think that's what I wanted at the moment. Like it was kind of grungy. Like, I went to Short Hike afterwards, and you'll see the games that I'm playing. They're kind of cozy. Like, you know what I mean? I was just like, I don't think I want this. I think this is a game that I want to play in the dead of winter when everything's just like shite. And I'm like, like, let's play some grim games and get through the horrible winter here. So that's probably when I'll go back to it. But right now it's the summer. It's hot. I'm like, I just kind of want to play games that make me feel chill, and so that's kind of what I've been going for. With that one. So anyway, that's retired. I'm sure it's a fun game that people would enjoy. So, don't take my retirement as some indication of quality. With that being said, why don't we... do you mind if I just soar into my playing?
Go for it.
So I don't have a lot. Yeah, I actually don't. I don't have a lot to add to this. So I'm still playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I have actually played some of the game this week. It's still great. I'm having fun going slowly at it. I love all the customization you can do to Cal. My Cal's got like a dirty fucking 70s mustache with long flowing hair, and I'm like, fuck yeah. You can make him look ridiculous in this one, and I am into it. Excellent outfits too. You don't have to buy any of the fucking outfits. They just give them to you in the game, which is nice. I mean, you could buy them in the game with the currency that you get in the game, which is nice. I'm sure there's some kind of microtransaction somewhere, but I haven't seen them, so I'm happy. Yeah, good game, having a good time. I have been playing more of Garden Story. I'm a little unsure about this game. Like, it's... what I'll say right now is the combat... pretty dumb. In the sense that, like, basically you have, like, an exhaustion, like a stamina meter, but one swing knocks out a full bar of the stamina, and you have two swings, basically, at this start. And I don't know how you increase it or if you can. And every enemy takes at least 3 hits. So you're like, bang, bang, wait, bang, wait, bang, bang. And it's like, this is not fun. I don't like this. So far, I'm like, ugh. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I think it's going to become very repetitive, and it's highly likely this is going to hit the retirement bin pretty fucking soon, because the way it works is that, like, so essentially you're in like this little town. You're all like fruits and veggies and stuff, and you're Concord the grape, which I do appreciate the puns. But you were like a little seedling who's now like, you've been given a home, which also, by the way, video games, talk about wish fulfillment. This child's just given a full fucking home with a homestead, everything right off it. I'm like,
imagine that.
Imagine that shit, man. That'd be great. And you're like helping your town out. And so you get like 3 requests a day, but the requests are kind of randomized. Like, it seems like you're like, so you have like this larger like meter you're building up to that I think then unlocks like story progression things. But like you have each day, you have little requests that are like leveling up different elements. It feels needlessly complex for the kind of game that this is, and a little fetch questy, because you kind of like, a lot of them is like, you got to pick up these resources for the town, and it's like, do I every day just have to go and like bash a stump to get this thing? And it's starting to be like, I'm like, ooh, this might have a little more of those like crafty sort of games without the crafting. Well, I guess there's a bit of craft, not really though. You just bring materials to people, which I would argue isn't really crafting. That's just like unlock requirements. You know what I mean? Because it's not like you're gonna create something unknown, right? Like most crafting games, you can just put stuff together and then it's like, oh shit, I made something cool, right? Like that's crafting. So yeah, I don't know right now. Like I'm a little unsure. Like so far, it hasn't been too egregious, but like some of the requests sometimes are like there's these bridges that'll go out, and then you have these like little, not even really puzzles. It's like you hit little poles and they'll like put up like blocks, and then if you get them all to show, like those ones where it's like you press one button and like one light will light up. You press another button and then 3 other lights light up. Like those kind of things, like one will go off. It's that puzzle, but you have to do it like numerous times because like you might wake up one day and they're like, the bridge is out again, and you're like, dude, I fucking undid that bridge like 2 days ago. What the fuck is what? Like, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of shit where you're like, this feels like a lot of busy work. So I don't know about this one. I think I'm gonna give it like just a bit more time because it does seem to imply that things are gonna open up pretty soon and that you're gonna have sort of like more things you can do. But for now, I'm like, I'm a little unsure of this one. Have either of you touched this one or seen this one? Or
Haven't. It
I've
doesn't.
seen it. I think it was the Wholesome Direct a bunch of times,
yeah.
but I haven't played it.
Okay, it's in that humble bundle. I believe. I think it's in that one. Yeah. I had started that Wholesome Direct as well, and it's been on my radar for a while because it was very like a lot of the talk was that it was very sort of like Minish Cap, Link to the Past-ish inspired aesthetics and sort of gameplay, and I think someone had a like brain tumor or something when they said that because I don't fucking know what they're talking about. I'm just being real. Like I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? So I was watching Clone Wars and they were talking about brain tumors. You know that episode? Has anyone watched it? No, you haven't. They got the chips in their head, Order 66. It's a whole thing. All right, forget it. I'm too big of a nerd. It's a Star Wars thing. Anyway, but I don't know I just don't know what they're talking about because I'm like, okay, it's not really like Zelda at all. Like it's more like Stardew Valley Light, I guess, in some ways. But anyway, it's fine. Another game that's fine is A Little to the Left. I think we played this one. Paula, I think you played the demo of this one, and maybe Rick, but I don't know if you did.
I haven't played the demo. I saw it on the direct, but I haven't played any of it. It's not really for me, I don't think.
Yeah, it's okay. I quite like it. Like I like the gameplay. I like what we're doing. Like the little puzzles are quite fun. There's a UI issue that I saw a reviewer point out, and I also highly agree, is that this game just like when you solve it, it's just like you did it, and it just moves you to the next one right away. But there are numerous puzzles with multiple solutions, and it'll just move you past it right away, and you're like, bruh, can you just like give me a fucking choice if I want to try it again, right? Like why are you just like, and then to get to the level thing, oh, it's fucking annoying because you click levels and then it does this animation where it goes like bling, 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 bling and shows you all the levels you've completed like since you last opened the levels tab, and so you're like, I just want to go back one so that I may do this. And then when you finish, they just show you symbols. It's just fucking symbols, like an arrow, dots, equals, and you're like, I don't fucking know what any of this means. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea what these symbols mean. There's no indicator anywhere of what they mean. You just like have faith that this means next, maybe? Or but what about the 3 dot? What does that mean? Wait? Or does that mean pause? The X probably means close, but I'm not sure right now. So I'm just like, it's a bit of a, I actually think for game developers, this is actually an interesting game to look at for UI and stuff, because I think they're making some pretty big I think they made some pretty big mistakes in terms of their UI, where they went too simple to maybe maintain some sort of aesthetic where I don't think they have to. Because what they have is very fun. And it's very sort of like unique, and it scratches this like really nice itch. Actually, I think it scratches the itch a bit more than, because like it obviously comparisons to games like Unpacking are going to be inevitable because it's kind of that same, you know what I mean? Like that weird sort of like organizing thing. I would argue that I like this game so far more than Unpacking, though Unpacking certainly has a stronger narrative in terms of it's like the narrative of Unpacking is wonderful, but the game, like the moment to moment gameplay of A Little to the Left, I think is more satisfying. And there's some really sort of cute, like interesting puzzles within there. And it's really like, I know that it sort of builds itself on the idea of like organizing things, but that's not like really what the puzzles are about. Like, yes, some of them are that, but they become other sort of pattern puzzles and like like there was a really interesting one that I'll just say involved like something you could rotate, and there are images all around said thing. And you had to actually, and I couldn't figure out what I had to do for a while, but it was like, oh, actually, this thing that you rotate is see-through, so you have to actually line up certain elements on each of them in order to like solve the puzzle. Which I was like, that's very clever and really sort of neat, and not something that you would sort of initially think of. And so, one thing I was a little annoyed by was their hint system at first, because they give you this board. And they just give you an eraser and there's all this writing on it. And so your first instinct is just to erase everything. But if you do that, it actually just shows you the full solution, which I don't like that. And I still don't like, because like now I realize it's like, oh, okay, if I need a hint, I should just erase a little bit. But you also don't know what the fuck you're erasing. So you might erase something that is like the single most important point of the solution. And you're like, fuck, man, I just needed a little hint, like just a little hint of where to go. So I don't like that hint system. It's kind of like, this feels sort of harsh, but like, honestly, it feels like their puzzles are good and everything else is bad. Like, just honestly, like the UI, the hint system, everything UI related in this, I think is a big mess. Whereas art, but I should say not everything, because art, music, and gameplay are great. It's just UI is really, really, really a big swing and a miss for me in this one. Which is a bit of a shame because it's supposed to be cute and cozy and fun, you know? But yeah, anyway. UI is fucking hard, you know? It's really fucking hard. It's like one of the hardest things in game design, I think, that we often just take for granted until it's not good, you know? Like it's like that thing where you're like, oh yeah, UI's easy. And then you're like, well, not really. You play a game and you're like, oh, fuck. Yeah, Paula's like, it's not fucking easy.
No, it's not.
Right? And so anyway, this is a good, I still recommend you play this, Paula. I think you'd enjoy the game, but I also think you would, I'd be curious to hear your take too on the sort of UI of it, because I think you might find some of their choices like a little like interesting, you know? You're like, oh, okay. Not how I might have done it, but all right. Then again, I could never have done it. So anyway, what do you
know, like,
yeah.
I was thinking about the Simpsons meme where it's like, I am happy and mad.
Yes, that's exactly what this is.
That's gonna make me playing that game.
That's how I feel about it, actually. Like, honest to God, I'm like, I'm happy and mad.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for me. Well, Paula, why don't you take it away? Because I feel like you're ready to go.
Yeah. So I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Auto Chess, and there was recently an update. So it's patch 3.10, and it reworked Dragon, Water, Psychic, Rock, Monster, and Artificial synergies. So, for example, Dragon used to be like, I don't remember what Dragon used to be now that I think about it, but no, it boosts like the second synergy in your for your team. Water, in the other hand, introduces a new mechanic, which is fishing. So when you have 3 or more water type Pokemon on your team, you can fish at random a common Pokemon. If you have 6 or more, you can fish a common or I think uncommon Pokemon. And if you have 9 or more Pokemon on your team that are water type, or that have the water type synergy, you can get a rare water type Pokemon, and that is after each PvP battle. Which I thought that in that way, water type Pokemon would be like kind of busted because you pretty much get a free water type Pokemon that you can use or sell every turn or like almost every turn, and that makes it easier to like make your team. But um, I don't know. There's something about water Pokemon that they're like kind of not frail, but since they're kind of frail because since the bonus makes them like more evasive. The moment they get hit, they get decimated, or at least in my experience. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And also, you can fish Magikarp when you're when you have 3 or more water type Pokemon, and this is the only way you can get Magikarp. So I studied like in the previous episode that you evolve Pokemon by getting 3 copies of each. Like if you get 3 Piplup, you get a Prinplup, or if you have 3 Bulbasaur, you get an Ivysaur. That's the way evolution works in this game. To get a Gyarados, you need 9 Magikarp. That means having 1 active Magikarp on your team, plus the full bench being Magikarp, because the capacity of your bench is 8 Pokemon. This Gyarados is busted though. I never gotten it, and I tried making a water type synergy team 2 or 3 times today, and I failed miserably getting that Gyarados. The other rework synergy is Psychic. And Psychic kind of like lets you have I think it was like the ability to do more damage. So for level 1 synergy is plus 50 points, for level 2 synergy is plus 100 points, and for level 3 synergy is 150 points. The extra thing Psychic has now is that randomly on your job, if you have 2 or more Psychic types, you can get an unknown on your job that you can get for just 1 coin. And unknowns have random abilities, depending on what letter of the adversary they are. The thing is that once they use that ability, they vanish. So they kind of, if you get them on your team, they do a thing and then they're never ever seen again. Some of the abilities are kind of interesting, like for some reason, like the eye unknown has the ability insects or like swarm. I don't remember. It's like this just got added like today or yesterday, so I don't quite remember the abilities. But the unknown has the eye one gives you a swarm of 5 basic evolution bug types at random once it charges its ability. There's one particular unknown, which I don't remember which one, but I should, gives you a revive for your whole team. So if you have 5 Pokemon, all of them get a revive. And so all your Pokemon get a revive for that round. Only for that round. So you have to keep adding unknowns to your party. So level 1 Psychic gives you the chance of an unknown showing up in your job, I think. Level 2 gives you did I give you a chop of unknowns? Or like am I messing this up? But okay, some level gives you like an entire store of unknowns after each round. So you can pick an unknown, buy it, and then it refreshes to the regular job. And wait, I'm an idiot. I can just check the synergies here on the page. So
You do have this power.
I do have this power. Okay, so it's level 2 that gives you a 5% chance of having an unknown on your job. And the level 3 gives you like a guaranteed job of full of unknowns. And I think the other one that got reworked was Monster, but I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember what it did previously because I only got to use it like one time. Artificial got artificial, which is usually like things that look man-made or what is Elike doing there? Whatever. But like the candle Pokemon, Voltorb, that is kind of like Pokeball, the ice cream Pokemon, the sword Pokemon, and a couple of other Pokemon that I don't know what they're doing there. Get like more attack and shield depending on the items of numbers they're holding. I think what happened to them is that they kind of nerfed them because I think previously they have like a boost to every single stat depending on the amount of items that they were holding. And I think the last one is rock type. And if I can find this because I forgot there it is. Okay, so they used to have just a bonus to defense, I think. But now they have a bonus to defense and resistance to critical hits, which is kind of nice, not gonna lie. They make them more bulky. So that is like the overall the most notable changes aside of Pinsir, Sadu, Natu, Magikarp and Unknown being added to the roster of the Pokemon that you can use for your team. So that would be Pokemon Auto Chess. I actually went like on a frenzy playing this game. Like every single day, I would play Pokemon Auto Chess until today until yesterday because, and this is part of the reason why I haven't been playing the other games. I had the full experience of Surface Circular and Warcraft 3. Is that since I am not in Santiago and my boyfriend is with me, he decided not to bring his laptop and just steal mine and just use mine. So I haven't been playing a lot of PC games besides Pokemon Ultra Chess that is like for 15 minutes a quick match and that's all. The thing that I've been playing and I started today was Paradigm Paradox for the Nintendo Switch, and surprise, surprise, this is an Otome game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was between doing another route of Lover Pretend and doing a route of this. And this one won because I'm quite intrigued by the theme of the game. All I knew before playing it was that there were pretty boys that turn into magical girls, and they fought for justice in a post-apocalyptic world. That sounded like straight out of a fever dream, but let's
All you needed.
Yep. So I've been playing this, and you follow the protagonist Yuki Takanashi, Yuki for short, and just before starting, like properly starting the story, I realized when you go to status, there isn't like I guess an affection bar for each character, but there is a hero and a villain status, hero and villain meter, which is like, okay, color me intrigue. And there's also a flowchart, so I guess that makes it easier to like for subsequent playthroughs to know like what you're missing. And now with the story, so Yuka lives in this kind of like domed city called I'm gonna butcher this, is Vita. And this is a colony encapsulated by a dome because the outside world has become uninhabitable. So something bad happened in the world. Humans have retreated into small colonies, and everything is going to shit. So the other thing is that in this world there's a curfew. So these zones inside the colony get locked at a certain time because there are monsters that appear, or that is what the urban legend says. So for reasons like she forgot her pendant, she went out after the curfew because she knew about a secret passage. Got attacked by a monster because, of course, and got rescued by a group of magical girls. And it seems that she has the potential to be one too. So she got recruited by what is called the Blooms, and that is pretty much what I know about the story. So, like, still have no explanation why the main characters have the ability to turn into a magical girl. Like, what are these stones that they give them? It seems like some of the monsters like drop crystals of some kind. What are they using them for? I have no idea. I just know that I already ran into a couple of characters that look like they're kind of like evil villains straight up out of a fairy tale. So I also feel like in my first battle, and I'm kind of disappointed that they don't have the system that they had on Peer Cube, which you were able to, where you were able to make decisions during battle and kind of like, I don't remember. I think you had a timer. Maybe you had a timer, but you were able to make decisions during battle, and that impacted the story, and that makes sense. But here you don't, or at least so far where I am at, where the protagonist has already been into a battle with the rest of the superheroes, because they're called superheroes in the story. They, I wasn't able to do anything during battle, so it's kind of like, so far I don't feel the decisions matter, because I have a couple of instances on the story where I had to choose like where to go at a certain point, but the events of what happened after I made the decision really didn't make much of an impact, or at least I am not seeing it. And I also just check on how long to eat when I lock my time. It seems the main story is 4 hours long or 5, which is very, very short for this kind of game. So I'm kind of worried because it seems there's a lot of routes, but not enough time dedicated to each route. So I am kind of like, I want to be optimistic, but I have to see a little bit more of the game before I can say how I feel about it. So yeah, Rick, take it away.
Absolutely. So, not a lot of new movement for me this week. All the new movement it sort of started and finished within the week. So I'm still playing Marvel Snap. I never stop. And I've left it as a thing to talk about this week because I've been moving around a lot this week. So I've been playing a fair chunk of it. I'm at a point where I'm getting quite a few new cards at a fair clip. So I've got lots of different decks to experiment with for anyone who's listening who has familiarity with the deck, with the game. I'm sort of flitting between a move deck, which incorporates the new Phoenix Force card and some destruction. I am also, now that I've finally got Wong, playing a dirty, cheesy Wong White Tiger Odin deck sometimes. I've got an ongoing deck that I dip back into occasionally, but the main staple that I've been playing with, or the main two, I should say, are a weird sort of non-meta Bast deck, which focuses on using him to bump up cards like the Hood, and a 1-2 combo of Rescue and Iron Man. And the other one is a combination of sort of Dark Hawk and Sentry. I'm done boring you guys with what is probably a very niche thing that makes no sense to either of you.
I was like, I just realized what it's like when my partner asks me about the Middle-earth strategy battle game. And I'm like, I was playing Gullivar and I was going through here and she's like,
yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, I know who Aragorn is. And that's like it, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck.
There's lots of words, and to a few people, maybe
means
some
a
of who are listening,
lot.
they will make perfect sense. Yes,
But for everyone else,
otherwise
it's like,
it is.
the fuck?
It's just syllables strung together in what seems like a random order.
Right, and
So,
it's like slightly recognizable because you're like, oh, I know who Wong is, but
so I'm going to dive briefly back in. Wong's thing is that on reveal effects at his location happen twice, which means that White Tiger spawns 2 7 power cards at different locations instead of 1. And when Odin reactivates that, she spawns a further 4 because his reactivation happens twice. So 1 becomes 2, becomes 4. And then from a single play, you've got, instead of what would ordinarily be about 15 power, you've got more like 40 power.
yes.
So that's where the disgusting power of that play comes in, and it relies on you drawing all of those cards, as any sort of card game deck does. There's a degree of variance, and you have to have plan Bs in case your plan A cards don't come up. But Marvel Snap is great for making those games really, really quick, making them very, very accessible, and not being too money grabby. Now, I say that I've been playing the game for a few months, and 2 or 3 of those months I've bought the season pass. So they've definitely got their money's worth out of me. But for this kind of game, in this kind of genre, it's very polished. The devs are constantly on top of it with patch notes and updates and tweaks and nerfs and buffs and power changes. And I feel like it's good value for money within that context.
And like, how
for
much
what
is the
little I've
usual
paid.
battle pass?
It's £10 each month.
Okay.
So it's what I would pay for a Netflix, and I probably get a similar amount of entertainment out of it as I would a Netflix subscription. That's the way I view it. I think with a game like that, you kind of have to look at it differently to how you would a more regular game purchase. And I recognize some of that is actually a change to the way I normally approach these things. I think this game is unique in its approach to it. The cosmetic stuff is there, and you can kind of pay for it, and it is sort of on a rotation. But everything gameplay wise is basically given to you, and they're very, very particular about you can't buy your way to power beyond a certain point. I like it, is the bottom line, and can't see myself not playing it anytime soon.
Yeah, it does seem like a more like it's I get weird about some of these things too, but then I also think in some ways that this might be a way to save card games because, like, I play a game that, like the tabletop or like gaming that I do, right, can be pretty fucking expensive. It's Warhammer, right? Like that shit could be expensive. But then also when we play on nights where Magic the Gathering happens, and that game is basically just who's rich, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's literally all that game is. It's like whoever the rich kid is, that's the kid who has the good cards, and then you just get steamrolled because you're like, well, I can't afford that. So it's like it is kind of like a problem that is much larger than video games and could be an equalizer if not done greedily.
I think the way they address it absolutely does, because outside of each season, there is one card that if you buy the season pass, you get. And there will be a couple of cards that are redeemable specifically with a different in-game earned currency in that window. But with those 2 exceptions, you straight up can't buy cards. It's just not possible to do. You upgrade your existing cards aesthetically in a very minimal way. That gets you further up the collection track, and doing that, you periodically unlock a new card randomly from different pools. The main way you get cards is by playing the game, and the longer you've had the game, the more you've been playing, the more cards you get. And that does 2 things really well. The first thing it does is it keeps the level-ish playing field. If you've been playing months longer than somebody, or years even, you will have a bigger pool of cards to play from, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a better player. My brother has been playing recently, I got him into it, has been playing with a version of a starting deck and rinsing people with much better decks who've been playing for much longer. Is not far behind me in terms of the ranking track, and that's just because the game is not only what cards you have, but how effectively you can play them. And the second thing that system does is it, I think, does a really good job of tutorializing the system, because you can't just get all the hottest cards and just play the meta. Every time you get a new card, it's an opportunity to assess that card, think about new ways that you can play within that deck or other decks. You can have up to 20 decks set and just swap between them on a whim. And there's a few sort of non-ranked game modes where you can test decks out. That's a more recent change. But I really like the way they've got it set up. I really like the progression. Would I like the season pass to be cheaper? Of course I would, but I recognize a game like this is reliant on those servers running. It's just the nature of this sort of online game. And I think there's a good way and a bad way to do this, and I think this is one of the good ones ultimately.
Yeah, it's such a challenge when a game. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, but I just this is making me think a little bit, because and now obviously I haven't been delving into the video game aspect of this as much, but like I started playing Atomic Mass games. They do like Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is like, you know, tabletop Marvel. And
Okay.
they do like Star Wars Legion, which is like, again, tabletop Star Wars. And then they've just introduced a new Star Wars game called Shatterpoint. And the game's brand new, right? And so like it's interesting when you talk about these ideas of like balancing meta and stuff, and because it's like the minute that these sort of games get popular and then like tournaments are put into it and stuff, which is obviously a fun way you want to play, they all do kind of fall into this trap of like, okay, well, what's the meta? And then ultimately the meta is actually just what some people who are good at the game like win things with, right? Even though realistically and what I found is that in all these games, and this is the thing that I think people tend to forget, it's that like there are always going to be units or cards that are better than others technically, but the player is the most important part. You know, like at the end of the day, if the player is fucking good, they can win with almost anything, right? Like there's just some things that will just always be sort of bad, but there's always going to be an area, right, that's good. So yeah, anyway, I just find it curious what you're talking about with this stuff, because wait. Oh, I thought
she's just resetting.
Oh, it's just resetting. Okay, perfect. Great.
We'll crack on.
Yeah.
I think what's cool with this one though is that there isn't really a meta. There are definitely a couple of decks that perform slightly better, but there's counters to everything.
Nice.
And not only do you see a variety of different decks and play styles from game to game to game to game, but there's also a surprise factor to it, particularly because this game runs on a 6-round system, and the big hitters in the final cards have a variety of different effects. If your opponent isn't expecting the card because it's not widely played, you can do really, really well just because it's a play that's not been anticipated. And the devs are really hot on every couple of weeks just doing balance patches and taking 3 or 4 cards and changing the way that they operate, whether it's making them slightly less powerful, amending the way their effect works ever so slightly. So I think that benefits this system, because there is a meta, but it's only minimally important, and that's crucial. Enough Marvel Snap talk, I think. I've been playing more FF7 Remake briefly before I traveled. I'm up to chapter 12, which, as I understand it, is the point at which this game picks up the pace, which is good, because my aim is to have this finished and to be able to talk about it from a completed perspective next week. I don't know if I'll hit that, but that is my aim. I've played a fair bit more of Radiant Historia. This has felt a little bit like The Witcher in the sense that I've just been chopping away at it little bit after little bit after little bit. This is much better than the first Witcher game. It's fantastic. I've just not really dedicated the time to it, but I played a bit more this week with traveling, with it being on the DS, and the story is starting to develop. The plot is thickening at a quicker rate even than it was at the beginning of the game, and I'm really, really enjoying that. And the last game that I'm currently playing as we stand right now is Muramasa Rebirth. So I've picked it back up. I'm now playing Momohime's campaign, the second of the 2 main campaigns. I'm not going to gush about this game any more than I already have. If you've listened to any previous episodes, you know I think this is possibly the best game ever to have been made. It's phenomenal and continues to be phenomenal. So that's where I'm at with that one. And I think we're going to take a time out because Alex We're good. Okay. Apparently, we're not taking a time out. So that brings us to the. I'm so sorry, Paula. Your edit's going to be a clusterfuck. The topic this week, which I proposed, and I want to sort of give a little bit of context to. So, topic is, what impacts does the early access process have on the final game? And the reason I wanted to raise that is, having just played and quote unquote beaten Revita, I recognized that in the way that run finished, there was a true ending to be obtained. And what I discovered upon Googling it is that true end had been introduced piecemeal as part of the early access process. And because that early access process happened over a number of months and years, they had to stretch out the means of achieving that. That involved a shard system, which is a little bit like the buff and debuff type thing that you'd see typically in a Supergiant game. And you have to complete runs on higher and higher shard levels to get up to a certain point where these couple of particular obtuse requirements had to be fulfilled in order to allow you to progress to the true ending and the true boss. Now, if this game had been developed in a normal manner, would it be that much effort to get there? I genuinely do not think so. And it made me think about Hades and the way that game requires you to beat the game 10 times to see the proper ending. And the thought occurred to me, this is a product of the early access process, for good and for ill. And it also made me think of the big thing that was praised about Hades for early access, which is the sheer amount of dialogue and conditional dialogue character interactions that was able to be put into that game because they spent so much time creating and iterating and updating and adding to that game. And I thought it could be, albeit I don't think any of us have particularly played loads of early access games either before or after that early access window. I thought it could be interesting to sort of talk about and think about what that means for a development process. Do you guys have any thoughts at first flush on that?
Yeah, I mean, my first instinct. Sorry, I'm gonna jump in real quick here. My first instinct is like what you mentioned, where I think it's bloating games, and I think this has become an issue with I think I've seen this issue in roguelikes in particular, because, and I think also it's probably clear that there are some games that in particular benefit from the concept of early access, right? And those tend to be sort of these like more iterative games where like you're like doing runs or something, right? Like the kind of games that have a little more procedural generation to them, or just like a little more randomness in them, tend to be games that I find thrive in this sort of early access kind of world. It's like you're not going to go see Uncharted 5 or whatever in early access. You know what I mean? Like it's like, no, that's a polished experience that you get to enjoy. And I do think, like you said, there's times when I jump into a game that has just like left early access, and the amount of just like shit that's in the game is just absurd, to the point of like, I can't fucking do any like all this stuff. Like they'll have like, and it's especially bad for these roguelike games, right? And like you said, like I personally always thought that Hades' beat it 10 times thing is the stupidest fucking thing. Like
Agreed.
I completely, yeah, right. I was like, no, that's like, that is so arbitrary, and like not interesting or fun. And I just totally noped out from that. That being said, the game's great. It's just that part of it is like, why would you do that? So I do think that, like you said, it's like there are some real benefits where it's like, oh, it's awesome to have this time to get feedback, but then you also feel beholden to the fact that, oh, I actually need to maintain and entertain this player base, right? Because they're actually my hardcores. They're the ones who are like, we love this shit, man. And so like you want to keep them entertained and interested. And then when new players come in, it's like, huh? You know, like, oh, look at all this stuff. But I don't know. Is that, then again, though, who knows? Maybe that's good to have all that random stuff. But I think I'm somebody just personally who likes a more tailored experience. But I don't know. What do you think, Paula?
Sorry, you can hear the TV, right?
Yeah, but it's
Yes.
not that loud.
Okay, so sorry. So in the early access topic, like I've been thinking, and I actually played 4 games that were or currently are on early access. One of them being Slime Rancher. which I personally love. And I think that playing on early access kind of impacted my experience of the game because since it has a story, it's not like super invasive into the experience. It has like a lot of things to discover, but since I already played it on early access, I waited for it to come out. I had to like play. You could use your old save file, but I had to start from the beginning since there were so many changes that I just preferred it that way. Another thing that can happen with early access games, with Timberborn, for example, is that the early access package that has two types of beavers kind of already felt completed in a way. But since it is a game that where you have to build your beaver colony, you have to make them survive. Especially that last part, you have to make them survive through the tough times because you have a constant droughts. And the thing with that game is that there's been like changes to make the two beaver species like more separate. And if you're someone who's been playing the game since the beginning, if you want to make like a second run of the game with a particular beaver species, you have to know what changed, because the strategy that you used the first time around may not work now because of how the developers have changed how the mechanics work for each of the beaver races, which is kind of like minor, like compared to some of the changes that are that, for example, Age of Empires 4 is going through, which is a strategy game. But still, since Timberborn is more like less competitive in the sense of you're not playing versus other players, I feel like the fan base, even though they're dedicated, they are not gonna like see every single little change, and they're just gonna run into it whenever they fire up the game again. On the other hand, we have Potion Craft, which I played the early access, I played the demo, and oh my god, they changed so many things from the demo to the final release of the game. Everything's from the icons of the potions, which is kind of minor, but how some ingredients work. You still don't have like much of story, but since it was more of a roguelike game, because you're starting from the beginning for each potion you make, and you have to like navigate the map to make the potions. Not gonna lie, like they remaking a lot of the stuff made the game feel fresh again. So if you play the early access, it's not like you had the full experience. So, that's the other thing. The early access risk, you have the main mechanic of the game, so you want to kind of like sell the people on that main mechanic. And making a demo is kind of like making like a smaller version of the game, so you have to pick and choose what you're bringing to your demo. So in that case, the early access is kind of like extension of that demo, but it is also a double-edged sword because your early access, especially like when you first release it, may not reflect what the final product is gonna be. So hey, you may have a small following for your game, like with what happened with Timberborn, that they even had a Reddit page for the game when the demo first dropped. But you may have a case where your demo just doesn't land because it really shows the lack of content on it. People, I feel they're very judgmental. Like people in general will play a demo and just think, "Hey, this sucks. I'm not gonna play the full game," even though the demo may not reflect the full game. And the same is gonna happen with the early access, because the game being an early access, it could mean that the game is gonna come out fully like next year or like in many years. So it's kind of like you have a game, but you don't have a full game. So it's like, do I pay for this? Do I not pay for this? Do I wait for the game to fully release? Do I buy it earlier so I get it cheaper? So it's kind of like a very weird terrain we're at with early access games. So the last one that I have now in early access, I played the demo of, is the Wandering Village, which it feels like yeah, it's the one where you have a little village on top of a reptile thingy, and the reptile thingy kind of moves through a weird world, and you have to keep your reptile friend healthy for your village to prosper. So I actually played this in a Steam Next Fest, got really unlucky with my first run, didn't know what I was doing, got my poor reptile friend infected with some kind of fungus, and everyone died.
Oof.
And I couldn't get rid of the fungus, so tough luck for me. So the other thing that is happening here is that, hey, the game is fun, but maybe it's too difficult, so the early access allows you to maybe tone down the difficulty or turn it up if you want, or stuff like that. And again, people who don't like the early access of your game may end up liking the full release of your game, because you address all those comments, for example. But they may not know that you address all those comments, so they just decide that the game is not for them because they didn't know like it was early access or they did know but they don't care for the final release because they think it's gonna be like the early access. Or you have the opposite effect where you had a following and then you tune up things a little too much and you lose your following because people like maybe the roughness of the early access, or I don't know, you did something weird with the story and you lost their interest. So again, very complicated. Like it allows you to build a little bit it allows you to earn some money from your potential customers, but also I think it could also deter potential customers from getting into your game.
It's also interesting how it's basically only a PC thing, right? Like, you know what I mean? There's like, there might be like an example or two maybe of like a console like multiplayer game maybe that says they're in early access, but like there's not many, you know what I mean? And like if they are, they're usually like ginormous games. It seems to mostly just be a thing of the PC realm, where like maybe it's more acceptable because of the fact that like PC games at times are just broken messes anyway that like have to get, you know, like updated a ton or like released piecemeal at times. It's like I don't know why the PC ecosystem in general seems to be just more friendly to this concept. And honestly, it's also like I'm at times I don't understand what the difference between early access and a game that just releases updates is anymore. You know what I mean? You're like, it's like that one of that Office thing. It's like these are the same picture meme. It's like that's honestly what it feels like to me, where I'm just like updates. Early access, these are the same thing. You're like, you know what I mean? It's just
like for example, Genshin Impact kind of felt like an early access game when I first played it because there was only one kind of area that was Monster.
Yeah.
And you don't have access to all the characters. You don't know what the story is gonna be like. There's I don't even remember what playing Genshin was like in very, very early days, because now you have like a lot more to explore, but still it kind of sucks when it is weird because it's kind of like a demo, but it isn't because it can be tuned up. But
Well, that's the thing. I
I
think
don't know.
it's I feel like it's kind of a, I don't know who started this, but it's a kind of a marketing coup to just be like, it's early access to this full game that I may or may not change significantly, and I might never release. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no guarantee the damn game's coming out. And I'm sure there's examples of early access games that never saw the light of day, and have just stayed perpetually early access. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. And this might be partly a marketing thing, you know, like the games industry seeing like what sticks and what can you actually get away with calling your games. And I do think, to be fair, that this is a thing that a lot of indie developers have to rely on, which I think is pretty fair, where like they might have small teams and they just straight up don't have testers. And so it's like, all right, you know, let's do early access in the sense that it's like, you know, we're going to let this out and then the community will talk about it. And now I can figure out, you know, what issues are with my game so I can at least get a bit of a sense to it, which I also think could be a double-edged sword, because change is change. Change isn't good or bad. It's change, right? There's no guarantee changes you make, like Paula mentioned, are going to be positive additions to a game. They're definitely going to be different, but you never know. And I think, I don't know, personally, it sounds to me a little bit like hell to do early access, because I can't imagine anything worse than releasing something and hearing the just like deluge that is the internet giving you advice. I mean, think about us. We have different opinions just between the three of us on like the same games. I can't even imagine what it's like to have to wade through all of that noise. Because ultimately, if you say like, it's like, oh well, you know, I just get kind of a group of people that I trust, and it's like, yeah, that's what testers are. So it's, you know, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, what's the point of this? But you know, I don't know. At the end of the day, maybe just the ability to, like Paula said, bring in some revenue so that you don't so that you can actually prove that like, oh, this is worth my time. I'm not like putting so many hours of my life into this thing that nobody's even going to give a shit about, right? Like,
yeah,
I can see
I
that.
think you can also run into the... Sorry, go on.
No, that was it.
I was going to say, I think you can also run into the Kickstarter problem, which is where if you've got people funding it on early access, you then maybe think about feature creep and you want to change things, and you lose sight of an end goal. Game I played back in March, Get to the Orange Door, felt like that, where it was, and to go back to your point about things changing, that not necessarily being a good thing, felt like a completely different game to the one that I thought I'd purchased. But equally, it can be done well. It's not all doom and gloom. I mean, Risk of Rain 2, we all had a blast with, and that was a game that started off in early access and was able to present a complete experience in the end without having to pad the game itself out to obscene levels. So it can be done successfully, and I think there are a lot of pitfalls, but I think what we're probably all settling on is it can be a good thing. I think I'd definitely echo also that the PC space is much more forgiving of stuff like that. I think it's because indies thrive in a different way on the PC space. There is more engagement. There's more willingness to play around with settings and stuff. By contrast, on consoles, there's an expectation you install the game and it will just work. And that is sort of anathema to the idea of early access. Early access is, I know I'm buying an incomplete product on the proviso that I can support that product to its completion goal, and on the understanding that I'm getting the game as is for now. And I just don't think that flies with the more casual nature of console gaming. The idea that I buy the box, I buy the game, I play the game.
Yeah, and you know, thinking about it even more now, I think I'm more down with early access than even with Kickstarter, because at least you can actually freaking try the damn thing. You know, and you can get an idea, and even if it does change significantly, at least you've had the experience of it, you know. I understand why Kickstarter exists. You know, game development's hard, and sometimes we need to add a little bit of cha-ching to some of these people so they can get their games made. But it's like, I feel less strongly about early access in that sense. Yeah. And
okay,
like,
if we
that's it, I think.
I was going to say, unless anyone's got anything else to throw out at it.
No, I got nothing else. Which means it's time for How long to beat the game? Wow, that was good. Right into that. I think this week is it your turn now, Rick?
It's Paula's turn.
It is my turn.
Oh, it is your turn. Oh, I
let's-
just saw the scores and I thought, never mind.
Yeah.
So
No,
right.
last week we established that mathematically Paula cannot win this, unfortunately.
Right.
This is your last time to put points on the board, though, Alex, because next week
True.
you will be running the last ever installment of this game. But for now, it's you versus me. Trying to work out the main plus and 100% times of a randomly selected game, which Paula is going to announce momentarily.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get Is this DLC? I think that's DLC.
If you do the randomizer thing that's built in theory, it shouldn't let you have DLC.
Okay, fuck it. I got Ivory Roll and I got Cherry Tree High Comedy Club.
What?
Oh, what now?
Let Cherry Tree High Comedy Club. Which it is the first time I'm ever hearing about this.
It's the first time
you
for me
and me
too.
both.
Yeah. So can you say it
This is
again?
gonna be interesting.
Can you say the name again? I straight up, it's like you're saying it and it's leaving my brain immediately. Cherry Tree High
Cherry Tree High Comedy Club.
Comedy Club, like comedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds very visual novel.
Yeah.
And Capcom published.
What?
Well, color me surprised.
Released in 2010 for Windows, apparently.
What?
Hey, Mustard, how are you doing?
What is all of this? What's the special thing we need for this one?
No, hold on. There's a cat over my keyboard.
We can see the entirety of the Fluff's body and none of the Paula.
I'm trying to look into the screen because she's blocking my view of it. Okay, I'm gonna say, and I'm kind of blind trying to do this, is what's the overall global rating for this game? And oh my god.
Okay.
Can you please not? Okay, the global rating on HowLongToBeat.
Cherry Tree, laugh and the world laughs with you.
Yeah. What do I do with you?
What the fuck is this?
Okay, here. So, oh no, the PC kind of gave me an error because she stepped all over the.
Oh no.
Okay, come here. And now she's a pirate.
Oh, it's a delisted game. Interesting. Okay.
It's delisted? Interesting.
Yeah, according to the Wikipedia stage, it was delisted at the end of the 2022 Steam Summer Sale. And delisted on July of that year. Looks like it was published by Capcom maybe in Japan, but it's a different publisher in the West. And when they discontinued business, that affected this game among others. Apparently, the translation of the game was directly influenced by the Ace Attorney series, which the translators considered, quote, widely perceived as the best-in-class game localization.
Well, I've put in what I think. I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm about to throw my times in. It's very much a stab in the dark, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait to say what I was thinking before until you put yours in, and then I'll say what I was thinking.
We're waiting, Rick.
I'm aware of that. You little hypocrite, Paula.
Yeah. Pot calling the kettle black right there. Yeah.
Exactly.
I got a cat, so I get a pass.
Definitely not how that works, but my times are in.
Okay, so...
Is your rating in?
Yes, everything's in.
Beautiful.
Okay, so everything is in for both of you. And we... So, for main story... And what are you doing, Kat? Rick said 5 hours, and Alex said 3 hours. And the main story time is 3 hours and a half, so Alex gets the point.
Okay, that was close. I thought this might be a shorty.
For main plus sides, Alex said 4.5 hours, and Rick said 6 hours. And Alex is right on the money. It is 4.5 hours.
Half hours, you never betray me. Well, actually, you betray me all
For
the time.
100%, you guys decided to share a neuron, share a brain cell, and said 7 hours. You're very, very close to it since it is 7.5 hours. You both get a point.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So now we're sitting at 30 and 27.
For rating, you both said 65%.
No, we did not. That's a lie.
Really? Wow.
We did
Yeah,
not
both of
both
you
say
said-
65%.
I had
Both of you said 65%.
Should we do a new one? Should we do a
Just stop
tiebreaker?
it. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, this still leaves you in pole position.
Yeah, but I mean, you
I
might.
mean-
last week.
I mean, if you want to change the question,
we only
you could.
got 2 left. You might as well do a tiebreaker, right?
Okay, let's go with the percentage of retirement for the game.
Ooh, retirement percentage. Oh, goddamn! This is my like Achilles heel. I have always like gone way too high on retirements. Okay.
Okay. Mine's in.
Mine's about to be in. God damn it. I
Okay.
can't remember if this is too much or if this is too small. All right, there we go.
Okay, you're both very close, actually.
Oh,
Oh my god. Okay, so Alex said 6.3%, and Rick says 6.5%.
Uh-huh.
You're at the same distance of 6.4%.
oh my God! Are you serious? All right, well then it was destined. We both get
The
the point.
universe wants us to have 2 points
Yeah.
each.
There goes the tiebreaker.
All right, so never mind. Forget it. We'll just get the 2 points
man.
each.
And that's it.
That's it. So then that means I'm at
Thank you.
32. Rick's at 29, and Paula's still at 20 there. But yeah, battle next week to find out in the final episode of season 2 of the HowLongToBeat podcast.
All to play for.
Yeah, all to play for. I mean, I don't know what the stakes are, but they're high.
They're high, yeah.
Sure, I guess.
Yeah, just to build anticipation. It's for all the something. We'll figure it out.
The
by
final
next
to
week.
settle all finals
Exactly.
to decide the winner for this time at least, and indeed at most.
Well, thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch y'all next week. Toodles.
Later.
Bye.
Can't believe we told
We
time
need to stop doing
twice.
this.
That's wild. Oh.